Hey there, and welcome back. We're diving deep into spiritual life today.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, and you've shared some really fascinating material from Awaken Your Potential,
Hmm.
which is this YouTube channel all about self-improvement. And it's interesting because this video is like step 3 in a whole 9-step series they have.
Oh, wow.
So we're getting right into the meat of their approach here.
Yeah, cool.
So for this deep dive, let's really explore what they mean by spiritual life, why it's so important,
Right.
and what it might look like in our own lives.
Well, the video really starts by pushing this idea of moving past those surface level connections
Oh, yeah.
and like tapping into this deeper well of wisdom and power within.
I like that.
Yeah, it's almost like saying, hey, stop looking outward for all the answers and turn inward, like unleash your own potential.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. And they're very clear right from the beginning that it's not necessarily about religion.
Right.
It's about cultivating a connection with yourself, with the universe, with something bigger.
Yeah, for sure. And they actually use this quote from John Kabat-Zinn that I think captures this perfectly. You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf.
Oh, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
And it's such a powerful metaphor for life. But how does that relate to spiritual life exactly?
Well, just think about it for a second. Life is full of ups and downs.
Yeah, I'm
right?
pretty sure.
Throws challenges our way sometimes when we least expect it. And cultivating a spiritual life as they present it is really about building that inner resilience and perspective.
Yeah.
It's about learning to ride those waves with a little grace and courage rather than getting wiped out every single time.
It's like having that strong inner core even when everything around you feels chaotic.
Exactly.
It reminds me of like those massive trees that can withstand the strongest storms because they have those deep, expansive root systems.
That's a great analogy.
Thanks.
A strong spiritual foundation really does act as your root system,
Wow.
anchoring you and helping you weather those storms, whatever life throws your way. But the video goes beyond just describing what spiritual life is.
Okay.
It really digs into why it matters.
Yeah, and they don't shy away from painting a really compelling picture of the benefits.
Yeah.
They talk about inner peace, like finding a sanctuary amidst all the chaos of the world.
Yeah, think about it this way. We're constantly bombarded with information and stimulation these days.
Oh, yeah.
Constantly. And our minds are often racing a mile a minute,
Yeah, for sure.
So cultivating inner peace isn't about becoming emotionless or avoiding life's challenges.
Right.
It's about developing that ability to quiet the mental noise and find a sense of stillness within you no matter what's happening externally.
Yeah.
It's that ability to respond rather than just react that makes all the difference.
It's about choosing how we show up even in the face of stress.
Exactly.
And I can definitely see how practices like meditation and mindfulness, which they mention a lot, can play a role in building that inner peace.
Absolutely. They're like tools for training your mind to be more present and focused.
Mm-hmm.
But inner peace is just one piece of the puzzle.
Okay.
They also talk about finding clarity of purpose.
Right.
And they even ask a question that I think a lot of people can relate to. Ever feel like you're drifting through life without a clear direction?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And that's where having a strong spiritual foundation comes in.
Because it's not just about feeling calm, it's about knowing where you're going and why.
Exactly. It's about aligning your actions with your values so that every step you take feels intentional and meaningful.
Right.
Let me give you an example.
Okay.
Let's say one of your core values is kindness.
Okay.
So if you're operating from a place of spiritual alignment,
Right.
you're more likely to make choices that reflect that value, whether it's helping a stranger, volunteering your time, or simply being more patient and understanding in your interactions with others.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
It's about moving through the world with purpose rather than just reacting to whatever comes your way.
Yeah.
And they also talk about how spiritual life fosters connection not just with yourself,
Right.
but with others and with something bigger than yourself.
Yeah, that sense of connection is incredibly powerful.
For sure.
It reminds us that we're not alone in this journey.
Right.
It cultivates empathy and compassion, and it helps us find meaning and belonging in a world that can often feel isolating.
So they're really emphasizing that cultivating a spiritual life isn't just about personal growth, it's about something much bigger.
Right.
It's about how we show up in the world, how we treat ourselves and each other, and ultimately how we contribute to something larger than ourselves.
And they make this really impactful statement that I think summarizes it perfectly. Nurturing your spiritual life strengthens every other area of your life.
Wow.
It's like a ripple effect.
So it's not just about finding inner peace or clarity. It's about how those inner qualities radiate outwards and impact our relationships, our work, our communities, everything.
Precisely. And that's where the video gets really interesting.
Okay.
They actually provide a toolkit of practical steps
Ooh, a toolkit.
you can take to start cultivating a more meaningful spiritual life.
Okay, I'm all ears. I'm always looking for tangible ways to put these ideas into practice.
Well, they start by talking about mindfulness and meditation, which we touched on earlier.
Okay.
Now, before you think, oh no, not another lecture on meditation, they actually emphasize that you don't have to become a monk
Okay, good.
and spend hours a day in silent contemplation.
Yeah, 5 minutes seems a little more doable for someone just starting out.
Exactly.
But where do you even begin?
They suggest starting small, even just 5 minutes a day.
Okay.
Find a quiet space, close your eyes, and simply focus on your breath. And don't worry about clearing your mind completely. Just notice the sensations of your breath as it enters and leaves your body.
Gotcha.
And when thoughts inevitably arise, just acknowledge them
Right.
and gently guide your attention back to your breath.
Okay.
It's like training a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
The more you practice, the easier it becomes.
It sounds like it's about creating space both mentally and physically to just be present in the moment.
Exactly. And as you practice, you start to notice the benefits in your everyday life.
Oh, really?
You might find yourself responding to stressful situations with more calmness and clarity.
That'd be nice.
You might feel more patient and less reactive.
Interesting.
It's subtle at first, but over time, those small shifts can have a profound impact.
So it's not just about sitting on a cushion and meditating. It's about how those practices translate into a more mindful way of living.
Exactly.
What else is in this toolkit?
Well, the next tool they highlight is journaling for reflection.
Okay.
It's about taking a few moments at the end of your day to sit down with a pen and paper and reflect on your experiences.
Journaling has always felt a little intimidating to me. Like, I have to be a brilliant writer or have profound insights every time I pick up a pen.
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
This isn't about writing a novel.
Right.
It's about creating a space for self-discovery and exploration. They suggest asking yourself some simple questions like, what brought me joy today? What challenges did I face? What did I learn?
Yeah.
It's about looking for patterns, gaining perspective, and deepening your self-awareness.
It's like having a conversation with yourself, but on paper.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sometimes putting those thoughts and feelings into words can help you see things more clearly.
Right.
It can also help you process difficult emotions and cultivate a sense of gratitude for the good things in your life.
That makes sense.
Speaking of gratitude, that's the next tool in their toolkit.
Gratitude. It's one of those words that gets thrown around a lot these days, but I think it's really powerful when you actually put it into practice.
I completely agree. It's easy to get caught up in the hustle and bustle of daily life and focus on what's missing, what's going wrong, or what we wish we had.
Yeah, for sure.
But the practice of gratitude invites us to shift our perspective and appreciate the good that's already present in our lives.
So how do they recommend cultivating gratitude? Is it just about making a mental note of things we're grateful for, or is there more to it?
They actually suggest a really simple practice. Write down 3 things you're grateful for each night.
Okay.
And the beauty of this practice is that it doesn't have to be anything major.
Right.
It could be as simple as a warm cup of tea, a beautiful sunset, a kind word from a friend,
Wow.
or even just the fact that you have a roof over your head.
I like that it's accessible. Sometimes I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves to be grateful for these big life-altering things.
Right.
But it's often the small, everyday moments that bring the most joy.
Exactly. It's about training our minds to notice and appreciate those little things that we often take for granted. And the more we practice, the more we start to see the world through a lens of abundance rather than scarcity.
It's like rewiring our brains to focus on the positive, which can have a huge impact on our overall well-being. Okay, what else is in this spiritual toolkit?
The next tool they suggest is one that I'm personally a big fan of: connecting with nature.
Ooh, I was hoping they'd mention that.
Yeah.
There's something so grounding and restorative about spending time in nature. But how does that fit into the bigger picture of cultivating a spiritual life?
They describe nature as one of the most profound teachers we have, which I love. Think about it. Nature operates in cycles of growth, decay, and renewal. It's a constant reminder that everything is interconnected and that change is inevitable.
It's like a living, breathing example of the ebb and flow of life.
Exactly. And when we immerse ourselves in nature, we tap into that ancient wisdom.
Wow.
They encourage viewers to engage all their senses.
Okay.
Listen to the birds singing, feel the wind on their skin, Smell the flowers, observe the intricate patterns in leaves or the vastness of the sky.
There's a mindfulness aspect to it, too. It's
Uh,
about being present in the moment and really appreciating the beauty and wonder that surrounds us.
And that's where the connection to spiritual life comes in.
Okay.
It's about recognizing that we're part of something much larger than ourselves.
It's about feeling a sense of awe and wonder and maybe even a little bit of humility.
And for some people, that connection with nature can be deeply spiritual.
Right.
It can evoke a sense of reverence, gratitude, and interconnectedness.
It's like finding a sense of peace and belonging in the natural world.
Oh.
Okay, what's the final tool in their toolkit?
The last tool they discuss is trusting your intuition.
Okay.
They describe it as that inner voice, that gut feeling that whispers guidance and wisdom.
Intuition is a fascinating concept. It's
Yeah.
something I've always been curious about, but also a little skeptical of how do you know if you're really tuning into your intuition or just overthinking things?
That's a great question, and it's something they address in the video.
Okay, good.
They acknowledge that it can be tricky to distinguish between your intuition and your fears or anxieties,
Right.
but they emphasize that the more you practice mindfulness and self-awareness,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes to recognize that quiet inner voice.
So it's about creating space to hear that inner wisdom.
Exactly. And it's not about having all the answers right away.
Right.
It's about trusting that you have an inner compass that's always guiding you, even when you don't consciously realize it.
It's about learning to trust yourself and the journey, even when things feel uncertain. I like that. But before we move on, I wanted to touch on something else they mentioned. They shared a personal anecdote about their own journey, right?
Yes. They talk about how they spent years seeking validation and fulfillment from external sources.
Okay.
Achievements, possessions, the approval of others. They were constantly striving, achieving, and acquiring, but they still felt a deep sense of emptiness.
I think a lot of people can relate to that. We live in a culture that often equates success with external validation, but it sounds like they're saying that true fulfillment comes from within.
That's exactly the point they make.
Okay.
They describe a pivotal moment when they realized that everything they were searching for externally actually existed within them all along.
Wow.
It was a profound shift in perspective that changed everything.
It's like they finally stopped looking in all the wrong places and turned their attention inward.
Exactly. And that's when they began to experience a level of peace, clarity, and purpose that they had never felt before.
Wow.
They emphasize that this wasn't about becoming someone new or different,
Okay.
but about rediscovering and embracing who they already were.
I think that's a really powerful message, especially in a world that's constantly telling us to strive for more, to be better, to change ourselves. They're saying, hey, you're already enough. You have everything you need within you.
And that's the beauty of the spiritual path.
Yeah.
It's not about fixing ourselves or becoming someone we're not. It's about uncovering and nurturing the wisdom, strength, and compassion that already exists within us.
It's about remembering who we truly are. But, all of this talk about spiritual life and inner peace and connection, it can feel a little overwhelming, especially if you're just starting out.
I understand. It's easy to get caught up in the shoulds and feel like you need to be meditating for hours a day or have some profound spiritual awakening to be doing it right.
Yeah, right.
But the truth is, there's no right or wrong way to cultivate a spiritual life. It's a personal journey, and what works for one person might not work for another.
So it's about finding what resonates with you and making it your own.
Exactly. They actually encourage viewers to explore different practices and see what feels authentic and meaningful to them. And they emphasize that even small steps can make a big difference.
I appreciate that they're not promoting some rigid dogma or set of rules. It's more about encouraging exploration and self-discovery.
Absolutely. They even mention that this video is just step 3 in a 9-step series.
Oh, wow.
So clearly they see spiritual life as one part of a larger journey of personal growth.
I'm curious what else is included in this 9-step series. Do they give any hints about what other topics they cover?
They do. The next video in the series is actually about the power of social connection and building relationships that inspire and empower.
So they're acknowledging that our relationships play a huge role in our overall well-being, too. It's not just about cultivating inner peace. It's also about connecting with others in meaningful ways.
Right? It's about recognizing that we're social creatures and that our connections with others are essential to our happiness and fulfillment.
And that makes sense considering how much they emphasize the importance of connection in this video. It's about feeling a sense of belonging, not just with ourselves, but with something larger than ourselves.
Exactly. And that connection can extend to our relationships with friends, family, romantic partners, and even our communities.
It's about creating a web of support and love that nourishes us and helps us thrive.
And I think it's important to note that the video itself isn't monetized. They actually state that in the description.
Oh, that's interesting. What do you make of that?
It suggests to me that their primary motivation is to share this knowledge and help others.
Yeah.
It's not about profit. It's about making a genuine difference in the world.
It adds a layer of authenticity to their message. You can tell they're speaking from a place of passion and purpose.
Yes, it feels very genuine.
Mhm.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've explored what spiritual life is, why it matters, the practical steps you can take to cultivate it, and even the importance of social connection. But what does this all mean for you, the listener? What are the key takeaways here?
That's the big question, isn't it? How do we take all of this information and apply it to our own lives? I think the biggest takeaway for me is that cultivating a spiritual life isn't about becoming some enlightened guru
Right.
or following a rigid set of rules.
Yeah.
It's about making those small intentional choices each day to connect more deeply with yourself, with others, and with something larger than yourself.
I love that. It's about recognizing that spirituality isn't separate from our everyday lives.
Yeah.
It's woven into the fabric of our experiences, from the mundane to the extraordinary.
And those practical tools they shared, mindfulness journaling, gratitude, connecting with nature, trusting your intuition, those are all things we can incorporate into our lives right now, no matter where we are on our spiritual journey.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And what's so beautiful about these practices is that they're not just about personal growth.
Yeah.
They also ripple outwards and impact the world around us.
Think about it. When we cultivate inner peace, we're less likely to react impulsively or create conflict.
Right.
When we practice gratitude, we see the good in others and appreciate the abundance that surrounds us.
Yeah.
When we connect with nature, we're reminded of the interconnectedness of all things.
For sure.
And when we trust our intuition, we make choices that are aligned with our values and purpose, which naturally leads to more authentic and fulfilling lives.
It's like they're saying that cultivating a spiritual life isn't just about feeling good.
Right.
It's about being a force for good in the world.
Precisely. It's about recognizing that our inner transformation has the power to create positive change on a larger scale. And that brings us to the heart of this deep dive, the question I keep coming back to. What does a spiritual life look like for you, the listener? What practices resonate with you? What steps can you take to nurture that connection with yourself, with others, and with something larger than yourself?
It's a deeply personal question, and there's no right or wrong answer.
For sure.
It's about finding what feels authentic and meaningful to you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's starting a daily meditation practice,
Right?
spending more time in nature, or simply making a conscious effort to express gratitude each day.
Or maybe it's exploring different spiritual traditions, connecting with a community of like-minded individuals. Or simply creating more space for quiet reflection in your life.
The key is to approach this journey with curiosity and a willingness to experiment.
And remember, it's a journey, not a destination. There will be ups and downs, moments of clarity and moments of doubt.
But the beauty is in the process of discovery,
Mm-hmm.
of learning, of growing.
So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep trusting your inner compass.
And know that you have everything you need within you to create a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
And if you're curious to learn more, I highly recommend checking out the full 9-step series from Awaken Your Potential.
It sounds like they have a wealth of insights to offer on everything from personal growth to spiritual well-being.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of spiritual life. Till next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining your light. So we talked about how they aren't monetizing the video,
Right.
and they even include that in the description.
Yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, to me, it says they're really genuine about wanting to share this knowledge and help people. Like,
Yeah.
it's not about making money from it.
Right. It's about making a real difference.
Exactly. And it adds to their authenticity. Like,
Mhm.
you can tell they're speaking from a place of passion and purpose.
Yeah, it feels genuine for sure.
Okay, so I think we've covered a lot here. We've talked about what spiritual life is, why it matters, the steps to cultivate it, and even how important social connection is.
For sure, we've covered a lot.
So what does all this mean for you, the listener? What are the big takeaways?
That's a good question.
How do we take this information and actually use it in our own lives? What do you
Yeah.
think?
I think one of the biggest things is realizing that you don't have to be a spiritual master.
Yeah.
or follow all these strict rules to have a spiritual life.
It's more about those small daily choices
Exactly.
that help us connect more deeply with ourselves, with others, and with something bigger.
I love that.
And those practical tools, they talked about mindfulness journaling, gratitude, connecting with nature, and trusting your intuition.
Mm-hmm.
We can start using those today,
Yeah.
no matter where we are in our journey.
Absolutely. And the beauty of those tools is that they're not just for personal growth.
Right.
They also have an impact on the world around us.
Like, think about it. When we cultivate inner peace, we're less likely to be impulsive or cause conflict.
Yeah, that's so true.
And when we're grateful, we see the good in other people and appreciate what we have.
Mm-hmm.
When we connect with nature, we're reminded that everything is connected.
For sure.
And trusting our intuition helps us make choices that align with our values and purpose,
Right.
which leads to a more authentic and fulfilling life.
Yeah. It all ties together.
So it's like they're saying that having a spiritual life isn't just about feeling good.
Right.
It's about making the world a better place.
Exactly. It's
Yeah.
about recognizing that when we change on the inside, it can have a positive ripple effect outwards.
And that brings us back to the core of this whole deep dive. What does a spiritual life look like for you?
Yeah.
What practices resonate with you? How can you deepen that connection with yourself, with others, and with something bigger?
That's a question only you can answer.
Yeah.
It's about finding what feels genuine and meaningful to you.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it's starting a daily meditation practice, spending more time in nature, or simply making a point of being grateful each day.
Maybe it's exploring different spiritual paths, connecting with people who share your values, or just creating more space for quiet reflection.
Whatever it is, the key is to be curious and willing to experiment.
And remember, it's all a journey, not a destination.
Right. There will be ups and downs.
Exactly. There will be moments of clarity and moments of doubt.
But the beauty is in the process of learning and growing.
So keep exploring, keep experimenting, and keep trusting your intuition.
You have everything you need within you to create a life that's both meaningful and fulfilling.
And if you want to dive deeper, I highly recommend checking out Awaken Your Potential's full 9-step series.
Yeah, it sounds like they have so much wisdom to share about personal growth and spiritual well-being.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into spiritual life.
Thanks for having me.
Until next time, keep seeking, keep growing, and keep shining your light.